Welcome to Pink Blade.
Here, we don't just watch stories.
We step inside them.
Today, we're diving deep into Bridgerton Season 4, Episode 4.
All right, let's get right into it. We are talking about what the show is calling an offer from a gentleman. And I have to say, the vibe of this episode it felt completely different from the first three. It wasn't just plot moving forward. It felt like the entire texture of the show just changed. We went from, masquerade balls and misty gardens to, scrubbing floors.
That is the perfect place to start, because this episode is the mid-season pivot. And what you're sensing is a very deliberate shift in what we could call the architecture of inequality.
The architecture of inequality, I like that.
For 3 episodes, we've been living in this beautiful Cinderella fantasy, the silver gowns, the stolen glances, all the magic of anonymity. But episode 4, this is where the clock strikes midnight. But instead of a pumpkin, we get the harsh, grinding reality of, the service industry in 1815.
It's so jarring, isn't it? I mean, usually in Bridgerton, the servants are these silent, helpful ghosts. They just float in, hand you a lemonade, and then disappear.
Exactly.
But here, the camera literally drags us downstairs with Sophie.
And that's the choice.
Yeah.
The director, Jafar Mahmood, and the showrunners, they made a very specific decision to pull back that curtain. We leave what they called the perfumed stillness of the drawing room.
Right, the upstairs world where everything is soft and lit by candles.
Yes. And we descend into the subterranean engine of the household.
The engine room. That's such a great way to put it. Because it really is a machine, right?
It's a massive industrial machine.
Yeah.
And you have to think about the production design choices here. They didn't just build a set that looks like a kitchen.
No.
They built a fully functional workspace. They did that specifically to show the sheer, overwhelming volume of labor that's required to maintain the facade of the Bridgerton lifestyle.
I read about this small army concept they were going for, and it blew my mind. The sources mentioned that for those kitchen scenes, they weren't just using props.
No, not at all.
They were boiling 200 fresh eggs.
200 eggs.
For every single scene. I mean, that seems a little excessive, doesn't it? Why go to that length?
Well, it sounds excessive until you think about what they're trying to convey visually and emotionally. If you use plastic eggs or, just a few props, the background actors are just pantomiming. They're pretending to work.
Okay, right.
But if you have 200 boiling eggs, you have steam, you have the smell of sulfur in the air, you have the heat, you have this frantic energy of needing to peel all of them before they get cold or rubbery. It creates a really visceral atmosphere of survival and grueling labor.
So it's about creating a sensory overload for the actors and the audience.
Precisely. Upstairs, life is about leisure, legacy, and, who's dancing with whom. Downstairs, it's about heat and noise and deadlines. And this is so crucial because this is the world where our protagonist, Sophie Bake, is now trapped.
Let's talk about Sophie's headspace here. Because emotionally, this has to be a complete nightmare scenario for her.
It is a psychological horror movie, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, look at her trajectory. She started in the Penwood household where she was abused and, frankly, treated like dirt.
Yeah.
Then she had this brief, idyllic interlude at my cottage out in the country where she actually had autonomy. She was her own person. And now
she's moved into the heart of the Bridgerton home.
She is in the lion's den.
Literally.
And not as a guest, as a servant. The tension comes from that proximity. She isn't just working in some abstract sense. She's serving tea to the man she loves. She is washing his family's underwear. She is scrubbing their floors.
And she's invisible to his world specifically because of the uniform she's wearing.
That invisibility is so painful to watch. And it brings up something I saw in the research about the maid wars. Apparently, this was a real thing in the ton.
Oh, absolutely. Good help was incredibly hard to find and, more importantly, to keep. In the show, they mention that staff are leaving other households constantly. There's a bidding war for any competent servants.
Okay.
But Bridgerton House is unique because they're the nice, rich people.
Right. They are considered a good employer. The staff rarely leave Bridgerton service, and that adds a really devastating layer of complexity to Sophie's situation.
How so?
Well, if the Bridgertons were cruel like the Penwoods were, she could justify running away. She could rationalize theft or deception to get out.
But she can't.
But because they are objectively kind, because they pay well and treat their staff with a baseline of respect, she is trapped by their kindness as much as she is by her poverty.
So she can't leave because where else would she possibly go that's better?
Exactly. One wrong move, one slip of the mask, and she doesn't just lose a job. She faces homelessness. In that maid-wars economy, a servant without a reference is as good as dead on the street. So she is walking this tightrope over a canyon every single minute of every single day.
And meanwhile, we have Benedict. And I have to be honest, watching the contrast between Sophie's survival mode and Benedict's life is, well, it's infuriating.
It's meant to be.
He's just wandering around having this existential crisis, right? He's feeling rootless. He's playing at being a bohemian.
Rootless privilege. That's the term we should really be using for him here. Benedict is searching for meaning, for a muse, for a purpose. But notice that his search is a luxury. He has the time and the financial safety net to find himself. He gets to play at desire and art, completely unaware that his play has these devastating real-world consequences for the woman standing 3 feet away from him holding a tea tray.
That's a great way to put it. It's the difference between a headache and a heart attack. For him, a scandal or a bad painting is a headache. For Sophie, being discovered is a heart attack. It's total ruin.
Precisely. And that friction, that massive gap in stakes, is what drives the engine of this entire episode.
Which brings us to the hook. Why is this episode the turning point? You know, we're halfway through the season. Why does everything pivot right here?
Because episode 4 is where the show systematically deconstructs the Cinderella trope it spent 3 full episodes building up.
Shattering the fantasy.
Exactly. I mean, think about the Lady in Silver. Up until now, she has been a ghost, a memory, a sketch in a notebook. She represents this perfect, unattainable ideal. In this episode, that ideal transitions from a masked enigma to a flesh-and-blood woman who is standing right there in his drawing room.
And this is the thing that makes me want to scream at the television.
Yeah.
Benedict doesn't see her. He's looking right at her, but he doesn't see her.
The blindness.
Okay.
And this is the central conflict. And I want to challenge you and everyone listening to look at this not just as a plot device. You know, it's not, oh, Superman puts on glasses and nobody knows who he is.
Right. It's deeper than that.
This is a sociological commentary.
You think it's about class?
100%.
Yeah.
Benedict is obsessed with the Lady in Silver. He is sketching her constantly. He's dreaming about her. But when he looks at Sophie, he sees a maid's uniform. His brain literally cannot process that the goddess from the ball and the servant in his house could be the same person.
Wow.
The class divide is so entrenched in his psyche that it acts like a blinder.
So he's not face blind, he's class blind.
Exactly. He looks through her, not at her. And that blindness is what makes the tension of almost being recognized so completely excruciating to watch.
It's dramatic irony at its absolute finest. We know, she knows, he doesn't know, and we're just sitting there waiting for the penny to finally drop. But while Benedict is struggling with this, we have this parallel evolution happening with Violet, and I have to say, I love this subplot.
Violet Bridgerton, the matriarch, finally getting her own story.
She's finally doing something for herself. The sources mentioned she skips the family dinner, which, I mean, for Violet, that is like the Pope skipping church.
It's a massive deal. Violet lives for family unity. Her entire identity for years has been mother and widow.
Yeah.
But here, she skips that sacred duty for a secret tea for two with Lord Marcus Anderson.
And it's not just a casual tea either. It feels, I don't know, it feels intimate.
It marks a really significant shift. She is reclaiming her own garden, to use the show's metaphor. She's transitioning from just playing a role to being an individual. So while Benedict is paralyzed by his inability to reconcile his fantasy with reality, Violet is actually doing the work.
She's stepping out of her prescribed role to pursue her own happiness.
Exactly.
It's a great mirror. Benedict is flailing, Violet is blooming. But before we get too comfortable with all the romance, we have to talk about the external threat, the horror movie element I mentioned earlier.
The Penwoods.
They move in next door.
Araminta, Rosamund, and Posey. Right at the end of the episode, we see them taking up residence in the house directly adjacent to the Bridgertons.
Talk about raising the stakes. I mean, it's one thing to hide your identity from a man who barely looks at servants anyway. It's another thing entirely to hide from the stepmother and stepsisters who tortured you for years.
It turns the internal secret of her identity into an immediate external danger. It's not just about heartbreak anymore. Now it's about discovery and total ruin. It sets the stage for part 2 perfectly.
Okay, I want to deep dive into the specific scenes now, because the filmmaking in this episode, just the way they shot these moments, is doing so much heavy lifting. Let's start with what everyone is calling the neck button scene.
Scene A, the drawing room.
On paper, it's nothing. Sophie assists Benedict with the top button of his shirt or his neckcloth. That's it. That's the entire action. But the energy in that scene, it was nuclear.
It creates a subconscious physical impact. And this is where we need to geek out on the cinematography for just a minute. The director, Jafar Mahmoud, used a very specific technique called simultaneous coverage.
Okay, for those of us who just watch Netflix and don't make movies, break that down for us. What is simultaneous coverage, and why does it matter so much here?
So, normally, when you shoot a scene with two people talking or interacting, you do it in pieces. You set up all the lights and the cameras to face actor A, you shoot all their lines, then you yell, cut, then you move all the lights, move the cameras around, and you shoot actor B's side of the conversation.
So they're reacting to something that actually happened like an hour ago.
Exactly. It can be very disjointed. It's technical. Simultaneous coverage means you have cameras rolling on both actors at the exact same time. The cameras are roaming, usually handheld or on Steadicams, sort of moving around the actors like sharks.
That sounds chaotic.
It is incredibly difficult to pull off. You have to light the room so it looks good from 360 degrees.
Yeah.
The camera operators have to literally dance around each other so they don't get the other camera in the shot.
Wow.
But for the actors, it's pure gold.
Because they can just be in the moment.
They can react in real time. Luke Thompson and Yeren Ha aren't waiting for a cue or a lighting change. They are living in that moment together. Mahmoud actually said it allowed the scene to feel more like theater. It just flows.
And you can feel it in the silence. I mean, there's no dialogue for a big chunk of it. It's just breathing and eye contact.
And that tiny little button.
The button. After she leaves, the camera just lingers on Benedict, and he touches the button she just fastened. He treats it like a talisman or something.
That gesture is the breakthrough. It represents the physical magnetism that he cannot ignore. Up until this moment, his love was intellectual. It was for the idea of the lady in silver.
A fantasy.
A fantasy.
Yeah.
But touching that button grounds him in the present reality of Sophie. It's the moment he realizes, I'm not attracted to a ghost. I'm attracted to her.
And then he drops that line.
Yeah.
He confesses that he doesn't want her to witness him entertaining all the debutantes.
Which is huge. He's admitting shame. He feels like a performer in his own life, and he doesn't want the one person who seems to truly see him to watch him being fake.
Speaking of performance versus reality, that transitions us perfectly to Scene B, Francesca and John, the pinnacle conversation.
Oh, this scene. This is a quiet devastation, but in a good way.
Francesca admits to John, her new husband, that she has been faking her pinnacle, which is the show's very polite way of saying satisfaction or orgasm.
Let's just pause on the bravery of that admission. In this era, a woman's pleasure was, well, it was often considered completely irrelevant or purely functional for procreation.
Right.
For Francesca to admit she isn't feeling it and to admit she's been performing, that is terrifying.
She's risking his ego. She's risking the stability of their marriage, really.
But John's response is the key. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't get insecure. He responds with such tenderness.
He tells her they have all the time in the world.
And that line.
Yeah.
All that line just hurts.
Why? Because it's so sweet.
Because it creates such intense dramatic irony for us. We, the audience, know things that John doesn't. Especially with the introduction of Michaela Sterling at the very end of the episode. We know that all the time in the world is a promise he might not be able to keep.
It's heartbreaking. But structurally, it works so well because it's a direct contrast to Benedict and Sophie. Francesca and John are rejecting the perfect marriage performance in favor of this honest, quiet partnership.
While Benedict and Sophie are just heading for a violent collision of passion. Which brings us to scene C. The staircase.
The staircase. The bad idea, right? See?
The setting. The servants' staircase. We have to talk about why this happens here of all places.
It's not in the drawing room and it's not in the kitchen.
It's a liminal space. It's the connector. It bridges the two worlds upstairs and downstairs. And neither of them fully belongs there. Benedict shouldn't be in the servants' stairwell, and Sophie shouldn't be loitering there.
So it's a no man's land.
It's a place where the social rules are suspended for just a moment.
And the action is just a crash. He's coming down, she's coming up. They just smash right into each other.
And the dam breaks. It's desperate. It's heated. It's not the slow, tender button scene at all. This is just raw hunger.
And the music, the string cover of Olivia Rodrigo's Bad Idea, Right?
Yeah.
By Caleb Chan.
It just underscores the impulsive nature of it all. The lyrics of that song, I only see him as a friend. I just tripped and fell into his bed. It's all about rationalizing a mistake you know you're about to make.
But then the music stops, the records scratch. Benedict declares his love, he pours his heart out, and then he makes the offer.
Sophie, be my mistress.
And the air just gets sucked out of the entire room. I remember watching it and just thinking, oh no, oh Benedict, no.
It is the ultimate record scratch moment.
Yeah.
Because here is the tragedy of it. Benedict thinks he is being a hero.
He thinks he's solving the problem.
Yes. He thinks, I love her. I can't marry her because society would destroy us both. So I will set her up. I'll give her a house, clothes, protection. I will take care of her. In his mind, he is offering security and a kind of defiance of social norms.
But Sophie, she doesn't hear security at all.
No. She hears her trauma. She hears her mother's history. Remember, Sophie is the illegitimate daughter of a nobleman and a maid. Being a mistress is exactly what ruined her life before it even started.
So when he says mistress, she hears, I want to make you into the very thing that caused all your suffering.
Exactly. She hears a confirmation of her tragic heritage. She hears a total loss of dignity. And Yeren Ha's performance here, I mean, she doesn't scream. She doesn't slap him.
She just goes silent.
That silence is just devastating. It is more powerful than any monologue could ever be. She just looks at him, realizes he doesn't understand her at all, and she walks away.
It's the ultimate rejection, not even of him, but of the box he tried to put her in.
It's a slap in the face without a hand ever being raised.
Let's pivot to some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, because understanding how they made this episode actually explains why it feels so different. We talked about the simultaneous coverage, but there's more to the visual language here, right?
Yes. Jafar Mahmood made a very conscious choice to use different camera types for different parts of the house.
Right. For the downstairs scenes, the kitchen, the laundry, he used handheld cameras.
Handheld creates a slight shake. It feels unstable. It creates what he called vibrancy, looseness, and chaos.
Yeah.
It subliminally tells the viewer, this is a place of action. This is unpredictable.
Get upstairs.
Static shots, tripods, dollies. Everything is smooth, curated, perfect. It conveys stillness and beauty. So as a viewer, you're constantly being visually whipped back and forth between chaos and order.
That's so smart. It's subtle, but your brain definitely picks up on it. It makes the downstairs feel more alive.
And more stressful, absolutely.
Let's talk costumes. John Glazer and George Sayer. I feel like Sophie's clothes are telling a whole story by themselves in this episode.
Oh, they are. They are charting her descent, or her journey. Yeah, depending on how you see it. She starts in that penwood brown.
Which is just so drab and sad.
It's the color of the earth. It's about being invisible. Then at the cottage, she moves to purple, which is a mix of red for passion and blue for Bridgerton.
Ah.
But here, she's in this specific Bridgerton house staff uniform.
It's a uniform. It strips away her individuality completely.
Exactly. It signifies her integration into the good household, but also her solidified status as a servant. She isn't Sophie Bake anymore. She is the maid.
And Benedict, I love the description in the notes. His look was inspired by Shakespeare in Love.
Specifically Joseph Fiennes in that film.
And 1980s New Romanticism.
The loose-fitted poet blouses, the ruffles, the open collar.
It's very Duran Duran meets Lord Byron.
It is. And it signifies his bohemian and rootless nature. He isn't buttoned up tight like Anthony or Colin usually are. He's unraveling. His clothes are literally looser because his grip on his own reality is looser.
And we can't forget Violet's lingerie. The 1930s inspired silk and French Chantilly lace corset.
Now, the history buffs in the audience might scream at this.
Yeah.
It is not strictly period accurate for 1815.
But the designers argued it was character accurate.
And I completely agree with them. If she wore historically accurate Regency underwear, it might look, well, cumbersome to a modern eye. By using 1930s silk, they convey romance, sexiness, and reawakening. It shows she is modernizing her internal life.
Right. Sometimes you have to break the history to tell the emotional truth.
Especially.
Okay, now, we've arrived at the elephant in the room, the reaction to the Mistress offer. This broke the internet.
The Mistress debate. It was the main topic of conversation for weeks after the episode dropped.
I mean, hashtag Benedict Bridgerton was trending globally, and it was not all happy tweets.
No. There was a massive backlash. A lot of fans felt the offer was a huge tonal misstep. They called Benedict out of touch. They critiqued the power imbalance. They basically said, how dare he?
It's the modern girl boss expectation, isn't it? We want our romantic leads to be perfect, progressive feminists, even if they live in 1815. We wanted him to say, screw society, let's get married right now.
Exactly. We want the fantasy. But the show, and a lot of the book readers, pushed back on that.
The defense was pretty strong, too.
The defense argued that this friction is necessary. It's a slow burn. You can't have the big payoff of him defying society if he doesn't first try and fail to conform to it.
And Julia Quinn, the author of the books, she actually weighed in on this.
She did, and this is fascinating. She revealed that she specifically insisted the show not change the historical context of the Mistress offer.
Really? She fought to keep the most controversial part.
Yes, she argued that for a man of Benedict's rank in the Regency-era, marriage to a servant was literally unthinkable. It wasn't just frowned upon. It was like marrying an alien from another planet.
Yeah.
If they had made him propose immediately, it would have felt like a modern fantasy just inserted into the past.
It would have cheapened the struggle.
It would have. So, strangely, the offensive offer is actually the most historically respectful moment in the episode.
Wow.
Jess Brownell, the showrunner, called it a huge mistake on Benedict's part, but a necessary one. It exposes that his progressiveness up to this point has been performative. He talks a big game about art and freedom, but when the rubber meets the road, he defaults to the rules of his class.
He hasn't actually broken the rules. He's just trying to bend them to suit him.
And that's a painful but crucial lesson for a character like him to learn. He has to realize he isn't the hero he thinks he is. Not yet.
And Luke Thompson, who plays Benedict, he defended it too. He said from Benedict's perspective, it feels like the only logical answer.
And logic is the enemy of romance here, isn't it?
It really is. Yurin Ha's take was really touching too. She focused on the trauma aspect. She said, for Sophie, the word mistress isn't a job title. It's a curse.
And that disconnect, him offering logic, her hearing a curse, is what makes the drama so incredibly rich.
Aside from the whole mistress debate, fans were also completely obsessed with Francesca and Michaela.
Oh, the media literacy discussion, yes.
Yeah, people were analyzing Francesca's reaction to Michaela at the end of the episode versus her love for John. There was this huge debate online about calm love versus lightning strike love.
It's a fascinating question. Does true love have to feel like a panic attack? Or can it feel like safety? The show seems to be positing that Francesca has safety with John, but Michaela represents something electric.
It's something dangerous.
Or just different. But the fans immediately picked up on the fact that you can love two people in two very, very different ways.
And finally, I just have to mention the universal praise for Yurin Ha.
Oh, deservedly so. To convey stunned silence and the weight of an entire tragic backstory without saying a single word. That is just high-level acting.
It really is. So here we are, the midpoint. We've analyzed the architecture, the filmmaking, the costumes, the controversy. What is the big thematic question this episode leaves us grappling with?
The core question, as we wait for part 2, is this. Is the Lady in Silver a fantasy that Benedict must let die in order to truly love the woman who is standing right in front of him?
That's the crux of it, isn't it?
He has been in love with a mask, a projection of his own desires. Now, he has to decide if he's brave enough to love the messy, complicated, inappropriate reality of Sophie Bake.
And the conflict is so clear. Benedict has to decide if his rebellion is merely an aesthetic choice, poet shirts and art classes, or if he is brave enough to actually blow up his entire life for her.
Can love survive in a world where one partner views it as a waltz and the other views it as a risk of total ruin?
That is the cliffhanger. It's not a plot cliffhanger, it's an emotional one.
And that is why this episode works so well. It doesn't just move the pieces around the board, it changes the entire game.
Well, I, for one, cannot wait to see how he digs himself out of this hole in part 2.
It's going to be a very long climb.
Thanks for listening to Pink Blade.
If this episode revealed something new,
You can follow to explore the next chapter.
and if a moment stayed with you,
Share it in the comments.
until next time.